Hi guys and gals, it's Miss Brooks. I hope you are having a fabulous day. Today I want to talk to you about story elements or parts of the story. You already know about some of the parts of the story like the characters and the setting. Your characters are the people or animals that the story is mostly about, and you have main characters, and those are usually introduced at the beginning of a story, and those are the main people or animals that do things in the story or things happen to. You also have other characters that are important in the story or they wouldn't be in there, but they're not as important as your main character. And you may not find out about them at the beginning of a story. You may not find out about them until the middle of a story sometimes. You also have the setting of a story. A setting can be where a story takes place or when a story takes place. For example, right now I'm outside and I'm at my house, so that's where this is taking place. That's the setting. When it is daytime, it's the afternoon, it's spring, so all of those count for when the story takes place. I want to talk to you specifically today, though, about story elements that we call the plot. Okay, the plot is what happens in the story. It's what the story's about. And a plot is divided into the beginning, the middle, and the end of a story. Okay, and you've already talked about those things as well, or learned about those things as well in your classroom, the beginning, middle, and end, but we want to focus more specifically on those things. And usually a plot, a beginning, middle, and end, has some sort of problem and solution in the story. Not always, but many times. And so we're going to look at a story today that has problem and solution. And lots of times when you have a problem and solution, you're going to find out about the problem in the beginning of a story. Something's going to happen at the beginning that causes a problem for the characters. And all throughout the middle, the characters are trying to fix the problem or solve the problem, or there may be more things happening that make the problem bigger. And then usually by the end of the story, they have somehow solved the problem or had a resolution. Okay? So I want you to listen to this story, and as you listen to the story, I want you to think about the most important thing that's happening in the beginning, the most important thing that's happening in the middle, and then the most important thing that's happening at the end. And I want you also to specifically focus on the problem and the solution and see if you can identify what the problem in the story is and figure out what the solution is. The name of this book is Too Many Tamales by Gary Soto and Ed Martinez. Okay, it is a scholastic book. I want you to look at that word two, T-O-O. Two is a homophone. We know that T-W-O is the number two. We know that T-O is a preposition, as in give the book to me. And T-O-O means too much or extra. And that's a little way that I teach my students to remember the difference between T-O-O-2 and the others. It has an extra or too many O's. Okay? Too many tamales. Snow drifted through the streets, and now that it was dusk, Christmas trees glittered in the windows. Now, Christmas was a while back, so this story isn't taking place in the spring like we said it is right now. It is taking place at Christmas, which is in the winter time, so that's part of our setting. Maria moved her nose off the glass and came back to the counter. She was acting grown up now, helping her mother make tamales. Their hands were sticky with masa. That's very good, her mother said. Masa is kind of like cornmeal. Maria happily kneaded the masa. She felt grown up, wearing her mother's apron. Her mom had even let her wear lipstick and perfume. If only I could wear Mom's ring, she thought to herself. So we have two characters already. We have Maria, and we have her mom. Maria's mother had placed her diamond ring on the kitchen counter. Maria loved that ring. She loved how it sparkled like their Christmas tree lights. When her mother left the kitchen to answer the telephone, Maria couldn't help herself. She wiped her hands on the apron and looked back at the door. Says she couldn't help herself, and she looked back at the door. What do you think Maria's thinking about? I'll wear the ring for just a minute, she said to herself. The ring sparkled on her thumb. Maria returned to kneading the masa. Kneading, working it with your hands, moving it around. Her hands pumping up and down. On her thumb, the ring disappeared and reappeared in a sticky glob of dough. Her mother returned and took the bowl from her. Go get your father for this part, she said. Then the three of them began to spread masa onto corn husks. Maria's father helped by plopping a spoonful of meat in the center and folding the husk. He then placed them in a large pot on the stove. They made 24 tamales as the windows grew white with delicious smelling curls of steam. A few hours later, the family came over with armfuls of bright presents. Her grandparents, her uncle and aunt, and her cousins Dolores, Teresa, and Danny. Maria kissed everyone hello. Then she grabbed Dolores by the arm and took her upstairs to play, with the other cousins tagging along after them. So we have some more characters. We have her dad, and we have her aunt and uncle and cousins. But we can tell that Maria is still the main character. They cut out pictures from the newspaper, pictures of toys they were hoping were wrapped and sitting underneath the Christmas tree. As Maria was snipping out a picture of a pearl necklace, a shock spread through her body. The ring! She screamed. Everyone stared at her. What ring? Dolores asked. Without answering, Maria ran to the kitchen. The steaming tamales lay piled on a platter. The ring is inside one of the tamales, she thought to herself. It must have come off when I was kneading the masa. Dolores, Teresa, and Danny skidded into the kitchen behind her. Help me, Maria cried. They looked at each other. Danny piped up first. What do you want us to do? Eat them, she said. If you bite something hard, tell me. So we definitely have a problem. The ring, her mother's ring that she did not have permission to wear, is missing. The four of them started eating. They ripped off the husk and bit into them. The first one was good. The second one pretty good. But by the third tamale, they were tired of the taste. Keep eating, Maria scolded. Corn husks littered the floor. Their stomachs were stretched till they hurt. But the cousins kept eating until only one tamale remained on the plate. This must be it, she said. The ring must be in that one. We'll each take a bite. You go first, Danny. Danny was the youngest, so he didn't argue. He took a bite. Nothing. Dolores took a bite. Nothing. Teresa took a bite. Still nothing. It was Maria's turn. She took a deep breath and slowly, gently bit into a mouthful of tamale. It's the last tamale, the last mouthful of tamale. Think the ring was in there? Nothing. Didn't any of you bite something hard? Maria asked. Danny frowned. "I think I swallowed something hard," he said. "Swallowed it!" Maria cried, her eyes big with worry. She looked inside his mouth. Teresa said, "I didn't bite into anything hard, but I think I'm sick." She held her stomach with both hands. Maria didn't dare look in Teresa's mouth. She wanted to throw herself onto the floor and cry. The ring was now in her cousin's throat, or worse, his belly. How in the world could she tell her mother? "But I have to," she thought. "Remember I said that sometimes you'll have a problem at the beginning, and that later on in the middle, as they try to solve the problem, you may even have the problem get bigger?" So her problem was that she was missing the ring, and they think it's inside the tamales, and now they've added an even bigger problem. It's very possible that Danny swallowed it. She could feel tears pressing to get out as she walked into the living room where the grown-ups sat talking. They chattered so loudly that Maria didn't know how to interrupt. Finally, she tugged on her mother's sleeve. "What's the matter?" her mother asked. She took Maria's hand. "I did something wrong," Maria sobbed. "What?" her mother asked. Maria thought about the beautiful ring that was now sitting inside Danny's belly and got ready to confess. "The ring!" Maria nearly screamed. Maria's mother scraped off a flake of dried masa. "You were playing with it?" she said, smiling gently. "There it is. She's got the ring on." And it said she scraped off dried masa. So her mom already had already found it, and knew she'd been playing with it. "I wanted to wear it," Maria said, looking down at the rug. Then she told them all about how they'd eaten the tamales. Her mother moved the ring a little on her finger. It winked a silvery light. Maria looked up, and Aunt Rosa winked at her too. "Well, it looks like we will have to cook up another batch of tamales," Rosa said cheerfully. Maria held her full stomach as everyone filed into the kitchen, joking and laughing. At first she still felt like crying as she kneaded a great bowl of masa next to Aunt Rosa. As she pumped her hands up and down, a leftover tear fell from her eyelashes into the bowl and for just a second rested on her finger, sparkling like a jewel. Then Rosa nudged her with her elbow and said, "Hey, Nina, it's not so bad. Everyone knows that the second batch of tamales always tastes better than the first, right?" When Dolores, Teresa, and Danny heard that from the other side of the room, they let out a groan the size of 24 tamales. Then Maria couldn't help herself. She laughed, and pretty soon everyone else was laughing, including her mother. And when Maria put her hands back into the bowl of masa, the leftover tear was gone. So they definitely solved the problem. Her mother had solved it before she ever even knew it. Her mother had already found the ring and put it on safely. And the other problem, that they had eaten all the tamales, they solved that by fixing more. I hope you enjoyed that story, Too Many Tamales, and I'll be seeing you soon.